Welcome to the vlog.
You stole my heart of gold after my silver soul. Can you dig any deeper now? I gave you all I own, put you on this golden throne, but I'm a little stronger now. You cashed in on my promises, you know I'm too generous. Now I've learned to never help.
Nope.
What's up, guys? Welcome back. Today is a fun day. We're going to talk about stretching. It's a very interesting and debatable topic within the, I guess you can really call it the fitness community. It's like more of science. So why even stretch in the first place? Stretching elongates your muscles, which reduces stiffness and allows your joints and your joint cavity to be able to produce the ample range of motion that you need to perform whatever you want to do. So right off the bat, should you stretch? The short answer is yes, you should stretch. The important thing is how and when you should stretch. This is very important. This is the main topic of the video. So today we're going to be talking about, well, let me go over first the four major ways of stretching. The first one is static, the second one dynamic, third ballistic, fourth PNF, and PNF stands for Proprioceptive Neuromuscular Facilitation. Yeah, I'll just shorten that to PNF for now. We're not going to really talk about it. It does come up in one of the papers that I read, and it's because it compared static versus PNF and which one basically does more damage, but we'll get into that here in a bit. So later down the video, I will post the stretches that I'll be talking about. I'll do forms of the four stretches that I just said: static, ballistic, dynamic, and PNF. I'll do the stretches one by one, and I'll also put a list of how and when you should be doing them. So for the sake of the length of the video, I'm only going to be covering static and dynamic stretching. These are the most talked about stretches, especially within athletes. So first of all, static stretching is more of the form of stretching that you learned in elementary school. It's basically when you're just sitting and you're stretching. Like, for example, what's a good one? I don't know, like just doing this, like just doing that for just not moving it, just holding it for like 15-second intervals or something like that. That's static stretching. When your coach told you to get around in a circle and you did, like, I don't know, touch your toes, like sitting down. So that's basically what static stretching is. So dynamic is, now you're introducing a more kinesthetic, meaning you are moving, you're like adding movement to the stretch. It's not, you're just not sitting down or doing this. You're walking around and getting blood flow to that part of the body. The question I wanted to answer was when you should stretch and how you should stretch for maximal force output. So this is relevant for sprinters, power lifters, or I don't know, just like if you're going for a 1 rep max or something like that. This is beneficial for you, I believe. I mean, it's beneficial for everyone, I think, to know when you should stretch and how you should stretch, because it does matter. And that's what these two articles that I read talked about. So the first article that I read was from 2005. The title was Acute Effects of Static and Proprioceptive Neuromuscular Facilitation Stretching on Muscular Strength and Power Output. But anyways, so what this article focused on mainly was comparing static stretching and proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation stretching before doing a max force output, I believe is with the quadriceps. So in this study, they mainly focused on how the muscles and the nerves reacted after stretching and how that affects the force output that you're doing in that exercise. Basically, how they found these factors was basically using an EMG while they were doing the exercises, and an EMG stands for electromyogram. I'm gonna probably be referencing that a lot, so it basically just reads how like when nerves go off in the muscle. Basically, they just they see when the nerve is being stimulated. So I have my notes. They have 19 subjects again. They had a warm-up, an exercise. So they basically tested their maximal force output in the beginning. And then after that, they had a pre-stretch, range of motion. So they haven't stretched yet. They were just checking how their range of motion was. And then they went into the static. So after that, they went into post-stretch ROM. ROM stands for range of motion, by the way. So they tested their range of motion after stretching, and now they're going to exercise their max force output after stretching. So the big result, I guess, was that they both decreased. Both PNF and static stretching decreased the amount of force output. And so what they saw in this paper was actually, I believe it was after they took a measurement of the MVC, I believe it was 5-ish minutes after stretching. So they basically, what they found was that the EMG recordings, they showed less action potentials. What this could mean is that the CNS, your central nervous system, has to adapt to that new flexibility that you have created for yourself. It's like right before you stretch, you're probably not stretching every 5 minutes of the day. You're probably just walking around normal in your normal physiological state. But then if you stretch right before, your mind isn't really aware of what's happening yet. It has to adjust. So it has to sort of realize that, oh, you have this more mobility. You have this much more flexibility than you had before. So this one was called Acute Effects of Static Stretching on Muscle Strength and Power, an attempt to clarify previous caveats. Yeah, so what I liked about this study was that it wasn't just based on their own project, it was based on a whole culmination of the previous decades and their findings and what's consistent and what's not. All right, so basically to speed things up a little bit, so this video is not too long, what they found, or what they basically came up with, was that static stretching does inhibit your ability to exert maximal force output. The one thing that they did mention was that long static stretching duration is worse than short static stretching duration, if that makes sense. It might be obvious, but they state that it actually can be beneficial to actually incorporate some sort of static stretching right before you're doing like an exercise, if you add it to dynamic stretching and if you add it to ample warm-up. Basically, again, to state what dynamic stretching is, this is good because first of all, you're getting a stretch you're also providing blood flow to the limbs that you're going to use, to the muscles that you're going to use the most. So that's a huge thing. Warming up, doing a proper warm up for about, I would say, like maybe even exaggerate your warm up to make sure that you have blood flow going. I don't know, just even walking or something before you're about to do a squat or something. Something where you won't get too tired, but obviously you want to feel like you're ready to lift. If you want to add static stretching to that, I would recommend to add it to the very end, like after you're done stretching, rolling out your muscles. That's the best way to include static stretching into your routine. So yeah, that's what I found for you guys. If you guys have any questions about it, please let me know in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them to the best of my ability. Also, disclaimer, I mean, I'm not an expert on this. I read a bunch of research papers. That doesn't make me an expert. So there are a lot more articles. So yeah, let me know if you guys have questions. Let me know what you guys want me to do for the next video. I'm open to ideas. I'm thinking about doing maybe soreness, muscle soreness, how you should treat muscle soreness. They call it DOMS, delayed onset. Yeah, delayed onset muscle soreness, DOMS. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I've done a little bit of research on that too. If you guys are interested in that, let me know. Leave a like, subscribe, and all that stuff. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna do the stretching now. I'm gonna show you the stretches that I just talked about, how you should do them, when you should do them. Right before the stretch, I'm gonna show the list of how and when you should do them. Take a screenshot if you want. Enjoy, guys. Thanks for sticking around. See ya.
I gave you all I own, put you on this golden